Hi, everyone. I wanted to present something, and this is just my take on the world. I am a full time professional networker, and I get asked for a lot of one to one meetings. And I just want to share my thoughts on this because, in my humble opinion, it is one of the biggest wastes of time out there. And when you're meeting people who are good at networking, they want to experience you in their network setting so they know if you're a good fit to introduce to other people. So I'm just going to cover my thoughts on one to one networking. And for the record, if this is where you're at in life and you really love one on one networking, I'm not here to change your mind. But if you are like me and you really, really want to grow your network, you want to expand and do better at networking, then I'm going to propose an alternative. So, first and foremost, I always ask people why they want to meet with me one on one. And it's almost offensive, apparently, to ask this question because people say, "Well, I want to get to know you. I want to learn about you. You want to learn about me." Um, so that's the number one reason I hear is let's get to know one another. The second thing I hear, which is almost always in conjunction with the first, is let's find some ways to collaborate. And then, of course, the assumption, and I am fine with this, is we're going to sell one another something. Either you have something you want to sell me, or I might have something I want to sell you, or maybe we're going to do both. Now, for the record, that is the least valuable use of my time as a networker because rarely am I the direct person who's going to be saying, "Hey, I'd like to buy what you have to offer." I'm a connector, I connect people. So the third let's sell each other stuff usually doesn't apply to me. So you're wasting your time and mine if you think it does. So that's why I hear people wanting to do one on one. I'm going to share three alternatives. And if you're with me, I'd love to hear it because personally, I think I'm seeing some amazing things with networking. And the big thing is getting away from one on one. Now, if you really, really have your heart set on one, I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I wish you well. I just know for a fact that you're not a fit for my network because if you and I have to have a one on one to get to know each other, I don't have the time. And I'm not being arrogant, I'm not being rude. It's just literally I meet 300 people a week. I would love advice on how I can fit 300 people into a one on one schedule in that manner. And by the way, I'm not networking just to meet as many people as I can. I'm networking to build relationships. And the number one way I build relationships is by bringing people together, which is where these three alternatives come from. So, alternative one, which is one of my favorites, is every Friday I host either you call it what you will. It's either a virtual coffee or a virtual lunch, depending on the time of day, obviously. My favorite is virtual lunches. So every Friday at noon, I host a networking group, and the entire purpose of that group is to connect people in my network to one another. So if I'm meeting new people, that's a great place for you to come into my world and get my attention. Um, it allows me to get to know you. It allows me to get to see how you connect and communicate. It allows me to decide if you and I need to have a one on one conversation. So just to be clear, I will have one-on-one conversations, but not as the first, hey, let's get to know each other point. So virtual lunch, virtual coffee is one of my favorites. Very, very close to that is having networking groups. So I host several groups on LinkedIn, different interests, different communities. I use that LinkedIn group because if somebody wants to meet me, the best place to get my attention is in one of my groups. And again, this is mutual, it's about win win. So in my groups, I invite people to introduce themselves, to get to know each other, and to connect. And the reason I created these groups on LinkedIn is I don't want to be a bottleneck. If you meet somebody in my network that you think you need to know, I encourage you to connect with them, get to know them, and play nicely within the group. That way you'll meet more people quicker. And then the last thing I do for me personally, I love meeting people on a podcast. And yes, the podcast is one on one, but it's highly leveraged because assuming you and I were going to get to know each other on the podcast, I'm going to ask you questions about who you are, what you do, how you do business. Assuming somebody in my audience likes you, they will reach out and say, "Hey, how do we do business together?" So the podcast is for me because it allows me to get to know people quickly and it allows me to share them with my group. So the alternatives, if you're really, really stuck on one networking, I'm going to give you something to escalate your results. The secret is, and I borrowed this from Keith Ferrazzi, his book, Never Eat Alone or Never Dine Alone. My thought process is, everybody wants to do one on ones, but the reality is, if you bring a friend and I bring a friend, each of us meets three new people. So it's a really good way to grow your network. It's a really good way to add value to your network. Um, that's what virtual coffee is for me. If I can bring 20 people together and in an hour they get to meet each other and they decide if they want to go off and have one on ones, that's great. But it's really efficient because you can break the ice, you can get to know each other, you can say, "Yes, I want to meet that person," or "I don't think we're a fit." Now, with the networking group, I created those with the sole intention of helping people meet those in my network. Now, full disclosure, some people in my network need your products and services. Some people in my network have products or services they want to sell to you. My goal is to facilitate, think of me as a marketplace. I bring together people and let you figure out how you want to do business together. But I see it as 1 hour a week, highly leveraged. You might meet 8 people, you might meet 10, you might meet 20. But again, if you meet some people that are a good fit for you, it's a great use of your 1 hour. And then last but not least, why do I offer the podcast? It allows me to introduce you to my network. So my network gets to see you. And if they like you, they reach out and they do business with you. So I'm going to share my thoughts on why I don't love one-on-one, and really truly it's a time suck and it's a practicality. I'm not being mean. I love meeting amazing new people, but the thing is I'm at a point in my life and my career where I can meet 10 people, have a conversation, and of those 10 I can quickly decide who I think I should do business with. Now, if I did that one on one, it seems like the generally accepted is, 15 minutes turn into 30 or 30 minutes turn into an hour. So if I did 10 one on ones, scheduled as 30 minutes, effectively I'm going to waste either 5 hours if we're all honest and we stick to the schedule, which by the way, nobody ever sticks to 30 minutes. People who book with me all assume we can go over. Um, I don't have that flexibility, so I don't. But worst case scenario, I'm wasting 5 hours, maybe 10. Whereas if I can condense that into 1 hour, then I can decide, okay, of these 10, here's three I need to meet. We can get to deals quicker. But the great thing is, if I'm not a fit for you, no harm, no foul, no offense taken. I guarantee somebody in my network is a good fit for you. So again, one on one is the least leveraged. Again, it's old school. Everybody does it. I think this goes back to the days of, the people who went door to door selling brushes. It's all about one prospect, one lead, one conversation. Um, I want to respect your time, so I want to give you leverage. If you meet me, I'd like you to meet 10 of my friends. And then last but not least, if it's one on one, I end up seeing a lot of follow up. So, hey, just reaching out to make sure you're still on for that call. Thank you for joining me on the call. Hey, who else do you know? The reality is, if we like each other, we're going to do business or we're going to find a way to do business. If we don't, we aren't. So that's the way my world works. So, yes, definitely, I'm all for minimizing the follow up. Now, you might be wondering, why does Jeff care so passionately about one on one networking versus alternatives? And the reality is, I personally want to elevate networking and referrals to an art form. I've seen what can be done when you get a room full of really powerful connectors together, and I love to help others replicate that. So for me personally, I like to play at a higher game, and I'm always challenging myself to get better at networking. If you're just new to networking, I'm sorry, but I'm probably not the person for you. Um, I work really well with people who understand the power of networking and the strategy of networking. Now, the last thing I would say why you should care is one-on-one networking, as I said, is not leveraged with alternatives, whether it's virtual coffee, networking groups, or podcasting. You, as a networker, if you're in business development, I'm going to assume you care about your time, your energy, and your money. So the thing is, if you can find alternatives to one-on-one, it will save you time, energy, and money and increase your impact. So for me, that's what I value. I want to save time, I want to save energy, I want to save money, but I also want to have more impact. So that is why when people ask me, why don't you like one on one networking? That is my response. I hope this was useful for you.